Welcome back. No. All right. And 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Deconversion Therapy, the podcast. This is Bonnie coming at you with my friend Karen. Say hi.
Yep. And we're on Zoom, so Bonnie has a nice picture of pretty flowers behind her, and I'm in a closet with unfolded clothes behind me.
I know, but it's comforting to see two things every week. One, that your clothing changes positions. That means you might be washing things. So
I actually just shifted my chair. That's all.
But like there'll be a different shirt in a different location each week. And right behind you is deodorant. So that's comforting too.
Do you see how many though?
Oh my goodness.
There's 3.
Do you have one that smells like Australia? Remember that one?
Was there one?
Yeah, there was some like Suave brand that had an Australia scent to it.
Wow.
And I was like, now my armpits smell like Australia.
I know, but I told you that when I got to Australia, I was really upset that they didn't know about Aussie Moist shampoo.
Aussie what?
Moist shampoo. Remember Aussie Moist from the 80s? They had the scrunch spray. And they
was
had...
moist part of the name of the...
Yes, unfortunately.
No, really?
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
I know. That's why it didn't last.
Aussie moldy hair shampoo. So Karen and I have known each other since we were 1 and couldn't even form sentences, but so much.
One of us could.
That's right.
When I met her, I said, hello. My name is Karen. What are your pronouns? And Bonnie just went, nah.
So we started Baptist day school together and then went to, kindergarten, day school. Then we were in high school together and then we were college roommates for the first 2 years until I went secular and she stayed behind there and kept giving it all to Jesus. And I kind of didn't. And I slowly slipped away. So
she gave a percentage. Like tithe, about 10%.
Oh, no. I think I may have tried to go to church at college one time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went when I got home from, on vacation.
You didn't have anything to do. Oh, seeing friends. Yes, yes.
No, not seeing friends. Worshiping the Lord.
All right.
So anyway, so basically we both got away from the church on our own different ways. I was a really nice slow slide and Karen actually started reading the Bible. So there's the story.
And it let us both out and our own timelines. So, we have people, Christians, non-Christians, Latter-day Saints, post-Latter-day Saints, all this stuff, listening. But if you're listening, hopefully you don't get offended at stuff. That's the main thing. But where are we now spiritually? I feel I am a, quote, agnostic atheist, so I don't have a lot of spirituality to me. And where would you say you are?
I hate this saying, but it's true. I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. I feel like we're all connected and that being connected and having connections is the whole thing about Earth. That being said, I'm also very much an island and don't like people. So that's kind of true and not true. But connections are fantastic.
I love connection too.
Yeah, we're all connected and we're all going through the same experience. And all the details are a little different, but the more things I read and listen to as far as kind of self-help podcasts and
like ours.
And listen, like ours. And there's this whole concept called radical acceptance, and I'm reading that book, and I'm reading about people who are having the exact same experience as I am with, accepting different parts of what's going on in their brain. And we all have more in common than we have different.
I agree. And I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I agree. I don't see that through a spiritual lens for me, but I think that's really the crux of everything is now that I'm out of the church, I feel more loving than ever. And I was just telling
Yeah.
Bonnie that on TikTok, we have a lot of followers now. And it's mainly because on TikTok, there are so many people who have left the church all the way, part of the way, were raised Christian, were hurt by the church. They're all there. They're like, and they're on TikTok because of connection. I mean, that's what social media is. So they're all there and they begin to find us and find each other. And most everyone is positive and fun, and they have no problem, not being offended at stuff. Although I still get every once in a while some white men who they just disagree. While you're here and you're holding your phone, yes, scroll down. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Those all bring us up in visibility. And then the other thing is we have a sponsorship newsletter, and we really want to make that something that people desire, because instead of like a Patreon where we get people, sponsoring this, we send out a newsletter about twice a month. And we want it to be a community in there. So it's $7 a month. You can go to our website, deconversiontherapypodcast.com. But it's also in the details. So under all the stuff that's typed out about this episode, you'll see like where our shop is, because we have really cute new merch that's so funny and adorable. And
there's cute new stuff.
Plus a link to the newsletter. So thank you to the people who sponsor us. It really helps.
Yeah, and I will be putting a weekly recipe column in there about air fryer recipes.
Seeing that it doesn't come out weekly, this will be even better.
It's going to be even more annoying.
So, are you reading, watching anything, doing anything?
Well, I'm super excited to watch the show Hacks on HBO Max. Didn't mean that to rhyme, but those are the facts. Sorry. So that's good. It's Jean Smart, and she's fantastic. And she plays this older, seasoned comedian, and she's paired with a young comedian who's a writer, writing stuff for her. And their relationship is not smooth to start with. I know. And then, okay, so Tina Fey has got her fingers in another show called Girls 5 Eva.
I saw on Peacock, right?
On Peacock.
I did the big, I just do the free level, which only gets you the first 2 seasons of The Office. And, like the first 5 episodes of different series that they have. But I'm going to see if I'm willing to put out the big money like you do.
You know why I put the big money out? Because I was promised, and I don't know if this is me not knowing how to use the actual technology or if they're not doing it yet because they're not back in the studio. But if you pay the premium price, you can get to watch Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers before their air times. So like once they tape the show, probably like, I don't know, 7:30 or so, they'll stick it up there. I guess that's the idea.
So you're in bed by 8.
And I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
What?
So then you get to go to bed by 8. That's
right.
Worth it.
That's the dream. Living the dream. So Girls 5 Eva, which they make a lot of good puns with, like the word 5 instead of 4 and 3 instead of 2 in their song. And Tina's husband writes the music for the show. So that's a lovely thing because he's funny and he did the music for 30 Rock. But so in one of the episodes, Busy Phillips plays the hot girl from the girl group, and she married the hot boy from the boy group back in the day, who's played by Andrew Rannells. And you can tell that their relationship is not genuine, and they have not had sex. I don't know if ever they had sex. No, they have a daughter, so I guess there must have been something happening.
And the daughter is Tina Fey's real daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just found that out on another podcast. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And she's like a TikTok, YouTube. Like
she's an influencer.
Brat. Yeah.
Yeah. So Paula Pell comes over to the house where Andrew Rannells and Busy Phillips are having a Bible study. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Okay, bring mocking Bible studies into everything. So she's wearing this T-shirt that says Census 2020, and she's like, I don't have much church merch, but I've got this old census T-shirt. So she taped JE in front of the CEN. It says Jesus 2020. And Andrew Rannells goes, oh, that's okay. We're the cool kind of Christians who wear sneakers and compare the Bible to characters from The Office, which I thought you would like. And then the next joke of down the road is WWD, what would Daryl from The Warehouse do? So anyway, so good. I think I saved a few jokes for you instead of ruining them.
Well, I started watching it, and the main thing is like they were a girls group. Then they disappeared. Everyone went their own way. And then their music was sampled, so they sort of come back. But I love how, like, one of the members was living life really fast. So when they introduce everyone, out comes Paula Pell, who's got gray hair and is much older than Busy Phillips and the rest of the people in it. Right. So it's hilarious. And they just accept her as, like, yeah, that's normal. You've been living a hard life and you look older.
But she became a dentist.
Yeah, that's right.
She's no longer in a girl band. Like, I'm just going to go to dental school.
All right.
Oh, well, she's so funny.
We better get into what we're going to talk about. And it is it's not a new thing that I'm been talking out about, but we've talked about it in past episodes. But I really want to zone in because right now, there are high school kids out there planning their short-term mission trips this summer, which, I don't know, starts in a month or whatever. So I want to talk about short-term missions. Now, I was a long-term missionary, but I did do short-term at the beginning of all this stuff.
What did what we did in youth group count as? Like minute missionaries, because those are like week tours.
That was the beginning of the whole missionary like idea, because I think it's when you and I in the 80s, everything seemed invented by our church, not the way everything is these days, where
marketed ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that there were some sort of, things in mail-outs or magazines or whatever that were about the same. But I found this
especially when you compare what we did with the First Baptist of Fort Lauderdale. And how all of a sudden you meet all these kids and you're like, oh my gosh, it's Bizarro World.
It's us. I know.
Yeah.
And they all have, so I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it was like short-term missionary stuff started in the 1960s. And here we go. Inspired by the Peace Corps. And damn it, again, we have the God of all creativity having to make the church copy what's out in the secular world, like Christian rap.
Like bad music.
Yeah. And then it really started getting bigger in the 80s and 90s, and now it's expected. Okay, so when we did it, I think the first time I remember was the Bahamas the first one?
That's the first one I was involved with.
We were like 8th grade, 9th grade?
No. We were because you were dating the guy who would eventually be in a band. So that was probably
not in the Bahamas.
Yeah, you were.
Damn.
Because I have a picture of you sitting on his lap.
Yeah.
So, I want to say it was 11th grade.
Okay. I'm thinking of a different one, though. Then, did we go to Baltimore first?
Yes. Yeah, you're probably right. Yep.
Okay, so...
I just love how, hey, where can we send these young idiots? Baltimore, that'll be hot. That'll be hot and humid.
Let's go to Baltimore. And like you always like spend your days in this foreign church to you that you're setting up everything. And it was like a vacation Bible school. That was our big draw every time we went with our church. Hey, neighborhood, inner city Baltimore, other kids in Bahamas, anyone that doesn't have white skin, let us babysit your kids.
Oh,
I know.
So cringy.
Yep. What I love about it is that we didn't even realize, like you and I went. I don't remember how much money it was. I don't remember if our parents had to pay for some of those, but we didn't even realize, or I didn't, that there would be kids who couldn't afford to go or just couldn't go because they were going to be doing something else. But how we moved up a tier. When you go on that trip, you're in the in crowd.
You're like spiritually superior.
Yes. Or at least socially within like the youth of, yeah.
So... I do. Here's what I like, though, is that we can actually say we sang the national anthem at a Baltimore Orioles game.
Very correct. We did do that very poorly. And that's the funny thing. Like, I think how they set those things up in those days, I don't know. Like, if they just, like,
they couldn't email.
I you know what? I guarantee it was, hey, I know someone who does something for the Orioles, is what it was.
Right. And then sometimes I thought, at least back then I thought, wow, we must have been pretty good to get that gig. And now I think they must have been pretty desperate to want us.
I know. Yep.
But there were a lot of baseball games throughout the year. You know, in a baseball season,
yes,
there's a shitload of games to figure out who's going to sing the national anthem.
And people were like, what? There is a group of 8th graders from South Florida? This is going to be
in 8th grade.
Prime.
I want to say that was 10th grade.
It might have been.
10th, and then Bahamas was 11. And then there was the year where they were just like, well, we're going to just take a bus and kind of go around parts of Florida. That's where we got to sing.
Yep.
For the prisoners.
Yep.
And
well, that's
disturbing on so many levels.
Well, the thing about the Bahamas, like I remember going in there and you always had like a different task. Okay, you're on arts and crafts. You're on this. You're on that. And nowadays, I have run into so many youth groups at the airport. You can see they're all gathered around. Mm-hmm. Some of them have matching shirts. There's about 5 parents going, Josiah, no, come back, get in the group. They're all wearing strappy sandals, fabric sandals, like Chacos and Tevas. And there's one guy with a guitar, just one.
Sure.
They bring the one.
And I remember there was one family when we went to the Bahamas, we flew. And
right. I hope so.
we're close enough to take a vote. So, but we flew over there, and there was one family. The parents went and the kids went, and they split up, and they were like, "Well, we don't want to all go down together."
And now we realize what that means.
Oh, okay. So fun things that happen in the Bahamas. First of all, okay, when you're given your tasks, I felt like it was not as organized as I wanted it to be. It was not clear to me exactly what I was supposed to be doing, what I was supposed to be imparting and teaching to these kids. It was way too much hanging out time with them.
Totally. I mean,
I found that very uncomfortable.
That's absolutely what short-term missions is. It's building a relationship, showing Jesus through you. But I just remember, it would just be us cutting out like beards all day. Now stick this on the Moses picture and telling, singing some songs and whatnot. But I really enjoyed it because, these kids were really cute. They'd sit on your lap. I remember they would chase after our bus when we were leaving, and we were all like crying. And now I realize how shitty all of it is. Hello, here come rich white people who are showing you attention. Now we are going to take back our love, and you're going to be left in your same, unwatched, parents having to work all the time existence.
And I hope it wasn't that shitty, because I think that anytime you get to hang out with people and just have a fun time, there's got to be some good that came of that.
I would assume so, but everything I've been reading is a no. I know. Okay, so let's
wait. Let me tell you one thing though that is extremely indicative of my mentality, even to this day. There was at one point we needed something, and I had to go through the church in the Bahamas to find whatever was on my to-go get list. And it was so disorganized that I remember being in the bowels of the church thinking, how long can I hang out here before I have to go back and have awkward conversations with children I don't know?
I think that's so much of it, because it's sort of like we don't know what to do. And I remember always looking for a leader, like, where'd they go? Where are they? And so, I mean, we were left on our own. We didn't know what we were doing, but okay, let me get into now why I'm so against all of it. The parts that made us feel good is that we felt we were helping, of course. Mm-hmm. To me, it was an adventure, like traveling, going different places, seeing villages, love that. There was a lot of bonding that happened between all of us. And we felt like, hey, here's our purpose in life. We're following the Bible, and all the adults are super proud of us. So that's not bad. And again, I wasn't realizing how much it separated us from the other people in youth group who couldn't go. But I do know that later in life, when I did short-term missions with Youth with a Mission, short ones, longer ones, everyone was like a misfit. Like this, we were not the cream of the crop, is what I'm saying. We were people who kids wanted maybe the purpose or they wanted the adventure, but they weren't really that into God and Jesus or, showing any kind of moral anything. And then there were just a lot of super needy people, including leaders.
And I figured it was the exact opposite. Like, these are the people who know more about the Bible and about Jesus, and they're equipped to share it.
That's what I thought. And that's why, I ended up meeting my husband on the first short-term one I did. Second, after I got out of college. But I always noticed, like, he would be annoyed because he had to like take over the money situation because our leaders were incompetent.
He was the responsible one.
And then we realized like we all are, because there were only 3 women and the rest were guys, and one of them was so needy, like definite issues there.
And my guess is they were only maybe 3 years older than you at the most.
Right.
Yeah.
And the leader woman, I realized along the way how needy and incompetent she was. And she would just keep praying and talking to us about God giving her a husband. And then she felt maybe it would be the guy leader. And, it was all...
but that's what camp and mission tours were good for, is hooking up with boyfriends.
I
for
know.
me.
Exactly.
I mean, that was a bonus once you got old enough.
Not hooking up like the youngins mean.
No, not today's hooking up, but
Yeah, not the millennial sluts. So, yeah, I was super earnest doing it. And so, I'd align with a couple of the other super earnest people. And I remember on one, like there were about 30 of us, and the super earnest people were either, like 2 of them dropped out, and I should have been like, why are they leaving? But I'm sure they were just like, this is a shit show.
They're not committed.
But when we're like, oh, okay, this must be doing other places good, I put something on TikTok about mission work and the whole white savior complex. I got so many comments by indigenous people in South America, in reservations here in the States. I'm trying to find some, but there are so many people who are like, thank you. Our village has been taken over by these summer mission groups, and it's so damaging.
Oh, gosh. Here's what I love, though, is that it sounds like to me you really believed in the system. If an individual who was really earnest left, it didn't shake your faith in the whole concept of missionaries.
No, it didn't, because I really believed in a calling. Yeah. And now I realize I called myself to a lot of things I enjoy. So it was always, I remember, I did this one thing with YWAM, and then they were going to break up into 3 groups. One was going to stay in Australia, because that's where I was. One was going to go to Malaysia, the other to India. And they're like, everyone go and pray for 2 days and see where God's calling you. Well, all of us had our ear open to who we wanted to hang out with, where they were being called to. And also, I remember hearing my now husband say, well, I'm going to India because, I don't want to just stay in my own country. I want this to be something worthwhile. I want to go see somewhere I've never been with a group. And I'm like, me too. Not just because I had a crush on him, but because I'm like, yeah. So there you go. There's just
plus the whole different culture. I would strongly assume that Australia is a little bit more like the States than India.
Exactly.
So I think that's fair. I mean, you want to experience something different and see how the other people are, going to receive the message.
Yes. And did they love the skits, which we'll get into. Okay, but here's some of the dangerous stuff, or crazy stuff, or whatever you want to say. Every year, $4 billion are used to send kids on short-term missions. $4 billion. So you're sending, if you look at the pictures, I rarely see a person of color. It's all white kids. You're sending them into places where they're ill-equipped to do much of anything. And that money could be used to just like send the money or the supplies or even one good, contractor or whatever it is to help the people if they want to build a school or a hospital or whatever.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
money could be used to keep it in their economy. Like they would hire their own people who are out of work, train them in something, and then just leave. So you're not using up their limited resources too.
Yeah. Like, what's the housing mission thing that Jimmy Carter does?
Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah, that one seems like they go, they put something good in the community, then they get out.
Which is really
They leave
good.
something good behind.
Yeah, that's good in America. And then if it's overseas, it should be the people of that country doing the building so that they are getting a wage and they are learning a skill, and we're not crowding up their, because you usually end up staying with people. That's the other thing. You can't guarantee anyone's safety when you do these missions. And it's also just, it's embarrassing.
In hindsight.
No, it's embarrassing. Sorry, how Americans are perceived, these kids overseas.
Yeah.
They're just seen as colonizers, modern colonizers. Hi, I'm coming to your country. You're either already a mostly evangelized country, but we're going to do our own kind because yours isn't good enough.
Right.
Or we don't like your heathen ways, and we're going to come and do a dance to show you a better way.
Well, to me, the whole idea of a missionary coming my way, and I'm thinking of this from like the Mormons who used to ride their bikes down our street.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of them approaching me going, the things that you're doing with your brain are wrong. You should be having thoughts that are like our thoughts. It's like a sales pitch. It just feels salesy. It feels like a door-to-door salesman, and they do go door-to-door, of the, that you see personified in old TV shows where they're just pushy and they stick the foot in the door and they've got something to sell and it's only to make money. And then just knowing that ultimately to get more numbers for your church is to make money.
Right.
Makes me sad also.
See, you're smart like that.
No, I'm jaded like that.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking about going, like, it's easier, and it was always easier for me to go to another country and, quote, preach the gospel than it was here, because there, you're leaving, and most people are people of color wherever you're going, and they listen to white people. And you know that. Like, they are, like, those people must know something because they're white, they come from a place of money, we're going to listen to them.
They must have the secret.
Yes. And it's just awful because, then you sort of leave them without any follow-up, without any good anything. So there's like 1,000 organizations now in the States, and it's a really big business to do short-term missions. And I was looking at one set of... Let me find it. I was looking at one set. Wait.
Tell me what the short-term time frame is.
Okay. So short term is usually about 2 weeks. It can be a little longer. And some people are like, yeah, but what if you're doing something good that isn't just sharing Christ? And if it's anything with an agenda, like we are coming because we're Christians, even that's an agenda. Or, now you get to use this house we built that was built by Christians. There's like this emotional ransom put on those people. But last summer, because of COVID, a lot of these were canceled. And you and I were, we're like, oh, good. I guess everyone's going to put their money just to the poor now. But I found a website that was like, okay, how to discern if you should go because of COVID or not. This was last year.
On a mission.
Correct. And it had questions you asked yourself, like, what are the best advisors saying about the travel?
There should just be 2 boxes in this flow chart. Is there a pandemic? Yes.
Yeah.
Do not go. End.
This is God's message to you. How can it be clearer? But one of them is, what might not be accomplished if this trip is to delay or cancel? And 2, could the kingdom be damaged by delaying or canceling this travel? Which is such a huge burden to put on mere people. Like, are you really going to hold back God and bringing his kingdom to people just because of a pandemic? I'm like, oh, God. This is terrible.
Oh, God.
God, your people suck.
Oh, my gosh. So how long was a long-term missionary trip?
Long-term is just, you don't have any other job.
Okay.
Yeah,
so short-term is something that you could do with your vacation time.
Right. And it's usually done in the summer, sometimes spring break. And then long-term, it can still be a few months, a year, but some people stay the rest of their lives and they've been missionaries for 30 years or whatever. But I will say that every long-term missionary I knew, they were not doing things above board. They were always doing something, every single one, a little sketchy, whether it's like we smuggle Bibles into China. So like illegal stuff.
Okay, but sketchy with ultimately you're backed by God's desire.
Oh, yeah, all of it. That's
not
what I mean.
Sketchy like drugs and...
There, not that I know of, but I'm sure there is. But yeah, so it was always that, or it was, using the money that they got from churches to buy things that they might not really need or is really useful for the mission stuff. And they
like
don't
soccer balls.
tell people. What did you say?
Soccer balls.
Right, soccer balls. But yeah, it's just there was never someone that I thought I would find. Like, I wanted to see someone that I was like, wow, yeah, that's what I think of as a missionary. But I just saw a lot of stuff that was a lot more ick. But, so I did send you a video of some things that kids are taught to do on mission trips.
Yeah.
Were you
and
converted?
You talked about doing this on another episode, but I think you need to tell again about what yours was.
Well, mine, we would do, because we didn't speak the language, we would do skits, and all of us would have like minor props. And ours was...
wait, go back. What country was this?
This was India. We gathered people in like Mahatma Gandhi Square. And they would come, we would just wave at them and say, come here. And of course, everyone would, because they don't know what these weird white people are going to do. And then we put down the boombox. We push it. And our Jesus character, walks. No. So after the boombox is on, and some people start clapping, and we want to go, no, this is not about fun. You're going to see some a very cautionary tale.
We can't be prideful and receive applause.
Right, and don't clap on the beat. This is a cautionary tale.
This is not dancing either.
Well, I got to dance. I was, quote, party girl. So I did a break dance with my arms doing the wave.
With my arms.
And like someone
the
else
rest of your body did not know how to break dance.
someone else did was like pride and vanity. Someone else was, I don't know, something else. And then
did you have outfits or were you just in your street clothes?
we had some prop outfits that we wore. I wore like a American looking jersey to sort of show that I was cool.
And a bra on the outside or something.
Yeah.
You were the party girl.
And then our, quote, Jesus comes by, and I saw someone else with this, and church people will know. It would be like a shiny polyester purple throw-over shirt that somehow represents God and Jesus.
Well, purple is very
royal, etc. Yeah. And so our Jesus would come in and like, I don't know, pet each of our heads or something to sort of be like, you're forgiven. I can't remember. But then we nail them.
You're saying they had purple on, and I'm just thinking like they had LA Lakers jerseys.
It was that color, though. It was totally that color.
But was it a robe with like the pointy thing?
I don't know what that is.
Purple shirt.
It would be like a big purple shirt.
Okay.
Not a robe.
All I'm thinking is like big purple shirt, Shaquille O'Neal's giant shirt.
I'll send you one. But
okay.
So each of us then, quote, nailed Jesus to the cross, which means nothing to Indians.
Right.
Nothing to Hindus.
Right.
At all. And then, of course, he dies, and we're all crying because he's lying on the ground. And then all of a sudden, we back away, and he rises.
Yeah.
And everyone claps because they're like, this is, look, standing up. So, yeah, there's no discernible interpretation for them at all. Mm-hmm. But to us, we knew if we do this, then God speaks through us.
And that's so inside, because the video that you sent me of the mission trip skit,
yeah,
it was the same thing. Like I kind of knew what they were doing because I've heard these stories over and over again.
Yeah, and, exactly.
But there were no words. Their bodies, because they're young kids, are just kind of all over the place, and their props were shitty, and
that's right.
And so I know what it's kind of representing, but
even if we were to see
from
one,
another culture,
no, and even if we were to see one, we'd still go, "Is that? Oh yeah, that must be Mary." Like, we would still be trying to pick it out ourselves.
By the way, I always find this amusing, the sketch or the mission trip skit that you sent me on YouTube.
Yeah.
The other options for me to watch are down the right side of my YouTube feed are Steve Martin on The Dating Game in 1968.
It's the
Not
same.
sure how that is at all coordinating with the mission trip sketch. And Seth Rogen and Judd Apatow once talked religion with Tom Cruise.
Oh.
Like, I don't know if what I'm watching gives me, if the ideas on the right are because of what I'm watching. I don't know.
They hear us because
they hear us.
I saw this woman before Mother's Day do this idea where she picked up her husband's phone and she just opened Siri and kept saying spa day into it. So his up would come like sales on spa days when he's looking at his own. So I don't know.
Fascinating.
It is fascinating. So back to the missionary stuff. It's for people who are very earnest and feel that they're supposed to go out, preach the gospel to every corner of the earth, then it becomes like this burden that you feel you should be doing more in your everyday life, first of all, but definitely that going overseas to these heathens is even more proof that you are living a Christ-like life, which is bullshit.
I think a lot of it is people want to travel and not feel guilty about it and have their parents let them off the hook for having jobs
I'm
at a
sure.
certain age.
Yeah. And all their friends are going, and they have nothing else going on this summer. and my daughters used to be like, oh, so-and-so gets to go to, wherever it is. And that's all they would see on their Instagram timeline is those people holding brown kids, which is the hallmark of if you know you've gone or not.
God.
So a lot of my life, that's what I wanted to be with my whole life. And as many people know, I started looking in my Bible more and more when I was overseas in Thailand to try and, I'm going to really prove it to them. And I found disconcerting things when I was studying the Bible in order and trying to think, like I tried to put my mindset in the mind of someone who wasn't Christian for the first time. Like, how would they look at these verses? And I saw it like that, and I was like, they would say they're bullshit, and that I've seen this somewhere else in a different religion, and, So
the
that's
same mythology.
Exactly.
From religion to religion.
Yep. But at the same time, like, the burden was so heavy from when I was young that I need to be happy all the time or let people see me like that because they know I'm a Christian. So outwardly that could affect if they follow Jesus or not. And that's Jesus's command that we share the love of Jesus. And then the same with the mission work. I felt that if I'm going to be a Christian, these are the things that I have to do. And how fucked up it made all of us to feel that the weight of civilization and eternal life and people burning in hell is on us is such a traumatizing thing. And you and I were listening to the Cure for Chronic Pain podcast, which we highly recommend. And there was a lady who's Christian on there.
Well, and it made me realize so much of what we're doing is just like what she explained. And so I'll give the background a little bit on that. So there's this podcast and it's called The Cure for Chronic Pain. And what it deals with is how our minds process the feelings that we have and the emotions, or they don't process them. And if you don't get them processed the right way, they manifest in your body as pain. Last week, I was listening to the story. She had a woman on telling about how issues with her manifested in her life as pain in various places in her body.
And this was episode 132. I just looked it up.
Yes. So this woman, who's also from Australia, which it was very interesting given your Australian connection. So she grew up a pastor's kid, and she herself inevitably became a pastor. But back in the day, she found out that her dad was living a separate life. So she said this happened twice with her. Once in her 20s, she found out her dad was having a whole complete separate life in her late 20s, and her family completely imploded. Then she said their church got celebrity pastors in, and she goes, if nobody knows what that is, it's celebrity pastors are like people with big followings.
Right.
So Nicole was trying to encourage her to go back to a childhood memory to talk to her inner child. And this woman went back to a memory where she was at some kind of gathering with her friends, and they were in like 8th grade or something, and they were playing a game called Celebrity Head, and it was type of game where you had to guess which celebrity somebody was once they picked, a name from a hat.
Right.
And
like headbands.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And so she would get to the question and she would say, "Am I a pop star?" And they would say, "Yes." And then she knew she would not know who any of the pop stars were because she wasn't allowed to listen to the music of the day. So every time she got a question like that, she would just pass the whole game.
Aww.
Like, "Am I a famous TV star?" "Yes." "Pass." And so all the kids were making fun of her for not knowing anything to do with pop culture. So she says she felt a very big sense of righteousness. And we've talked about this before. Being mocked and persecuted was for her being a good Christian soldier.
Right.
And she used her sense of superiority about being a good Christian. And then she talked about how as a child she didn't have any choice but to believe in God. And I'm thinking, you know what? That's where you and I are very, very different as far as our family lives, because your parents were involved in church.
Right.
And they were excited when you did churchy things and were a good Christian. And you've talked about that before. And so she said the same thing. When she was celebrated by doing good Christian things, her father would praise her. And she said at age 9, she felt responsible for being the hands and feet of Jesus.
Totally.
And that,
yeah.
And I'm just like, this sounds so much like Karen's experience. And then she said she felt the weight of changing the world, which is just what you said about the missions.
Which it also feels like an honor, and it is sort of elitism, all mind fucked in there,
Absolutely. She said bringing the love to God to people was important. Otherwise, they'll die and go to hell. That is a lot of shame to deal with. That is a shitty load to put on a 9-year-old child.
It's like putting a 9-year-old in an operating room to keep someone alive without training. It's insane. Yep.
Yeah, and Nicole was doing a great job explaining, she goes, "Don't be embarrassed of this as the way your childhood had that responsibility feeling in it, because other kids might have grown up, a kid of an alcoholic, and their responsibility was to keep their siblings alive while mom and dad were, not capable." Anyway, so this woman who was talking gave up going to university because her dad wanted her to go to Bible college and stick with the family business of preaching.
Right.
Which again, it's just a business. Apparently it's more, but really ultimately it's a business. So when she was 12 years old, she found out her dad had been having some kind of maybe an affair that she didn't know anything about.
It didn't say affair, though. We'll be fair.
No, right.
Yeah. Something.
He did something that was wrong enough to get him fired.
Right.
And she knew something was wrong. And then when she was in her 20s, she found out that he had a whole separate life going.
And we don't know what any of it means. Yeah, she didn't reveal the good stuff.
Yeah, so despite him being a total hypocrite, he wanted her to follow and do the same thing with her life.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of that is what we're doing entirely with this podcast, is just shedding light on the shitty hypocrisy.
Yeah.
That's out there.
Right. And there's no live and let live, obviously, because that's what, evangelizing means. You can't.
And she had no chance to get to know something else as a possible way of being.
Something that really hit me on that, and I know this one is a more serious podcast we're doing, but the whole idea that if I'm not nice to people, it'll look bad for Christianity. And that begins to change who you are, the very essence of you. And she said something really interesting. She said, niceness will kill you because niceness is a big, fat fucking lie. Niceness is just fake. And niceness says, I'm going to placate you and give you whatever niceness you need in order for you to essentially believe in this fake me. So, I was like, that's so true. Like, that's what, it's just like this weird niceness game, which then turned me into a goodist, which, again, I'm at my age and still battling all of that.
Yeah, and if people don't know what that term means, goodist, it's that it is important for us, for other people to see us as good people.
Right. And that's why, like, I make sure I don't feel shitty anymore if someone comes after me. You know what I mean? If someone is coming on my turf, in my house, says something over in any one of my areas, personal, whatever, like, I am not going to feel bad going, no, take your shit out of here. Like, that's fine. I'm not going to go to other people's areas and tell them that. But if they do that to me, I have to remind myself that, niceness is fake. That is me wanting them to like me in some way, or me seeming nice and better than them in whatever way.
And if you go with what the Bible tells you, it's always turn the other cheek.
Right.
Turn the other cheek.
Although Jesus didn't. And that people are like, no, Jesus was always kind. Yeah, just see what he said to his disciples when they kept falling asleep. Or
when they kept falling asleep?
Yeah, he went to go pray and he said, stay awake. And he came back, of course, 3 times because it's the rule of 3, which is in literature forever. 3 fairy godmothers, 3 times the 3 little
and
piggies.
Comedy lists.
What?
And comedy lists.
Too. Yeah. I mean, it's a
comedy lists must always contain 3 items.
That's right. They always have to do the 3. And anyway, he called them fools. He got mad at them. It's like, I get it, but they're sleeping. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. You're Jesus. You should be able to keep them awake, right? With your magic.
So, with your tricks. So the best and brightest, who were his disciples, were still failing. That's kind of comforting.
They're still failing because they were tired. So he called them fools, and so that's how he did quite a few little things where he did snap at people. And he said, I didn't come to bring peace on earth. I came to bring a sword. And people aren't realizing that is exactly the verse and other verses like that they're taking when they're trying to promote the whole, like, Trumpian, we've got to fight, we've got to take over government situation. They're not looking at the turn the other cheek stuff anymore.
No, I think all of this is cherry picking what you want to back up your personal shiz at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Ew, so, but you guys listen to that podcast. It's great.
It is. It's really good. And I know I'm on this, let's stop short-term mission thing, but it really, it's insulting to the people that people visit. It strips communities of their minor resources that they have. I was reading one thing about how you could go do this mission somewhere, I'm not sure, in the Ukraine. And they already have, like, little dorms for people to go every year, youth. And they said in it that there aren't any stores in the nearby town, but we have our own store where you can get snacks and M&Ms and all that. And it says only for people in our group. Like, so if any of the people in the village want, they can't shop at it. It's just for the mission kids.
Right. Yeah.
Like that. Well, if people have any entertaining mission trip stories, please send them to us. Were you in a missionary play? Did you have any success or failures on your missionary trips? We want to embarrass you and read them on our lettersodes. Well, I remember one, and we did go like up these mountains, and there'd be like a tiny church, and we'd meet like 3 of their youth group, but we would be billeted out and stayed with families. And I thought about that too. Like, who can vouch for these families, really?
Wait, so were you staying with other kids from our youth group at the families' places, or were you separated from the herd?
I think it'd be like at least 2 of us sleeping on the ground in a living room or something like that.
Because that'd be too creepy if it was just one.
I know. It was just me sleeping between Ma and Pa.
In bed.
Because they said that's how they like to keep warm.
On that note, subscribe and review.
Don't be a shit pile. Bye-bye.